G'day everyone, Craig here again, and today I'm lucky enough and privileged to be sitting here with Matt Calman, who wrote the book The Longest Day, which I finished reading a couple of weeks ago and posted about. I think it's an inspirational read, and like I say, it's lucky to have you here, Matt. So welcome. How you doing?
Thank you, Craig. Thanks for having me. It's really appreciate the chance to sit down and chat.
That's all good.
So forth.
Yeah. So the book itself. So I mean, I guess we'll start from you. I guess I'll blurt out everything that I know about you. But if you just introduce yourself and things like that, and we can have a chat about the book from there.
Yeah. So my name's Matt Calman, and I'll show you the book. Just this is what it looks like.
Brilliant.
Shameless plug over. It's my only copy. I've given away all the other ones I had to various sources. I'm 43 years old, about to turn 44, and just to cut along, well, it's how many pages? 300 and something page story short. Had a fairly meaty breakdown in 2007, mid 2017, and came through the worst of it, and then discovered the coast to coast. I live in Christchurch. I've got a wife, 2 daughters, and the coast to coast I've grown up with. It's obviously not a race I've just discovered, but when I went to the finish line to see my friends finish this great race, was my first physical connection to this thing. Like, I'd seen Gurney win year after year on television when it used to be televised. Now it's all on social media and Facebook, and it's always been an inspiring race to me, but I'd never ever considered doing it. So yeah, word of advice: if you don't want to get sucked into doing something like this, don't go to the finish line, and don't get wrapped up in the inspiration that you might find there, because it's something that I was was hoping to be inspired by it, and it sure did. So yeah, and the book basically looks at my recovery from the depression that I sunk into, through setting myself a challenge, but not just doing it, doing things in a way that was sustainable, and that I could sort of learn from about how I wanted my life to go forward. So it was really a learning tool, and yeah, I got a lot more out of it than I imagined I would, and it changed my life really.
Fantastic. I think reading it as well, I know a lot of it is about your journey through the coast to coast. I think it's more than just the race as well. I think anyone could pick this book up and read it and learn from it, and I think it's just a way, I guess, when I was reading it, it sort of just seemed to mirror a lot what I'd gone through, and I guess it's sort of because I did that similar with Iron Man and things like that. But it's something that you read it, and I think a lot of people will read it and go, shit, that's actually something that I went through. It's something, and I think we need to. I think what you've done is normalize it. Normalize the depression, the breakdown, and things like that. And I guess from someone that's been through it and things like that, I thank you for doing that. It is something that we need to do more of, especially us blokes.
Yeah, and I read a little bit about your experience, Craig. And I saw. I sense that desperation when you are in that very, very desperate place, when you know things aren't right, you know things aren't okay. It is a really difficult thing to reach out and say you're not okay. Like I was sort of scared to the point where I kind of told my wife that it really wasn't okay, and then from there sort of got help. It sounds like it took your brother, was it?
It's my brother. Yep.
To ask you, listen, mate, are you okay? So, like, for many people, the act of actually reaching out is so difficult to the point where they won't do it unless someone might just check in, and there'll be that little point of contact, someone saying, hey, listen, I'm really worried about you. Are you okay? And then it's that. So one or the other, it doesn't matter how it happens, but the fact that the reaching out happens. And also, I think my intention in writing the book and to sort of communicate the experience of having depression. So my experience of it, like everyone There's a lot of universality in it, in the experience, but there's also, it's very personal. And especially when you're in it, you feel like you're the only one, and that you're affected in a unique way, which is also true. But in that way, it isolates you. So I think, in sharing the story openly, hesitation or embarrassment, it's a thing that happened to me. It's a thing I went through. It's a thing that I continue to go through. It's a lifelong journey, this thing. So, the fact that if you can just sort of communicate it, then it takes the stigma away, because I sort of believe that the stigma is a construct. It's built by the person themselves. It's whether it exists out there, I think it definitely does, because people do put it on other people. But it's something that if you can sort of dissolve it within yourself, then it breaks down that stigma, and the reaction you get from others can be different. It can be a bit more positive. And I'm not saying the responsibility is on the person, but for me, I practiced being able to tell people what was going on and what had happened to me. Like, I'm doing coast to coast. I've come through a depression. I'm writing a book about it. So it was a way in to be able to discuss it openly. And that was hugely powerful. Like, it just totally takes the air out of this big balloon that's in front of people, that keeps you away from people, that draws people in. And then they say, well, you know what, I've gone through that. I've gone through my own version of that, or my wife has, or my husband is at the moment. I get that. Or you're just talking about something that affects so many people.
Exactly. And it is quite strange, because when I embraced my depression and things like that and started becoming more open about it, I'd get into conversations, and probably within the first couple of minutes I would just be talking about our well-being, mental health and things like that, and getting quite deep into stuff. And it's like, actually, bloody hell, what is it, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 of us suffer from a mental illness within New Zealand. So it is scary, but it's also knowing that, hey, there are others out there as well.
And it's almost not like a matter of, we're going to find that 1 in 5 to connect with, and then we might get a few that aren't affected at all. I sort of believe that, there's that spectrum. It's like, when I gave up the drinking, which is detailed in the book, and in the past I would look at my drinking and think, well, I don't really have a problem, because I'm not the person who is the stereotypical alcoholic that you think of in your mind, that you see on the movies, and that the person that's hiding liquor inside the toilet system and all that sort of stuff, or can't function, or has the shakes when they don't drink. That is a small percentage of the people, right? And so then everyone else is somewhere on the spectrum. So I look at mental health and wellbeing that way too. So whereas, it's I was diagnosed with depression, but for all the people that aren't diagnosed, or well-being is sort of the thing that I sort of look at now, and say that everyone is affected by mental health and well-being, and everyone has the ups and downs, and despite what you see on social media and Instagram, all the smiling faces, there's a real life going on. There's more that is that, but it's also more than that. So for me, like, I've never liked the sort of casual conversation about the weather, and you run into people and have a bit of a yarn, but you don't really talk about anything. It's never been my preference, and in that way I've been pretty isolated a lot of my life, not being uncomfortable with having those conversations. But now I found it a lot easier to actually talk about the real stuff. And like you say, it only takes just being open, and then you open the door for others to also be able to be vulnerable too. So it's massive for others as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've all got physical health, so we've all got our mental health as well. And I think we've got it all encapsulates one. And I think what you've written in the book does that well. It's sort of, you've got your physical goal of coast to coast, but I suspect, like with my journey with Ironman, that the race day was like the starting point. Well, for me, it was the finishing point. No, realizing that I've got the black dog off my back, also a starting point to my new next chapter, new beginning type thing. And I guess it's, you get to the starting line. It's like, okay, this is my, I guess, your victory lap type thing, because the amount of hard work and stuff that you go through to get to that point is massive. And I think coast to coast, I talk about Ironman, but you have to be a certain kind of crazy to do it. But coast to coast, I think it's something pretty special. for sure.
Well, I can't imagine doing an Ironman. Well, basically because I can't swim very well, so I'd have to learn how to do that. But being on the bike for 180 k's doesn't fill me with much relish, really. I mean, yeah, I admire that. That's pretty incredible. It's an interesting thing, the coast to coast, because like you put a lot into the training, you get yourself fit enough to do it. Once you step on the start line, physically you're ready, but then it's really it is a totally mental game. I didn't realise that in the first year. The book that's encapsulated in the book, I didn't realise how mental that was going to be, and how much the experience factor was going to tell. So in my second race, my mental preparation and the way I executed the race was just on another level, because I'd been through the adversity in the first race, and it sort of becomes about just continuing to move forward when stuff gets thrown at you that you never imagine. You prepare for everything, and then it's other stuff that happens. Yeah. So it's how you can kind of deal with that. So the race continues to be that metaphor for me, for real life, for that struggle, and for the fact that you've got to keep moving forward. It's got to be sustainable. Like, I go out and I don't actually train anymore. I just go out and go on missions, I call them, or, I go out for a bike ride, or I feel like going for a run, I'll go out for a run. I do what I want to do. I haven't had a bad training session in probably 2 years. I've had ones that haven't gone as well as others, obviously, and I've fallen out of my boat a lot. But it's still better than have stayed on the couch. So
yeah, exactly.
Do you find that with some days you really don't feel like it, but you go and do it anyway?
100%, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, I've got, my wife knows, and she knows my triggers as well and things like that. So she knows that if I'm sitting on my ass for 3 days or whatever, and there's shit outside, she knows that if I don't get out and do something, then I could spiral. So she's also one to be not shoving me out the door, but just like helping me, I guess. And I like you say, not a bad training session. I think it is. I use each one as I do a lot of my thinking and all that sort of stuff out when I'm training, and it's just getting out there, fresh air and things like that, and being able to get out there and do it, I guess. I mean, I watched your chat with Lisa Tamati the other day, and you were talking about the 1.5 hour half marathon, or the perfect race type thing. And I guess when I started out, I was very similar. It's like, how do I accomplish the perfect race and things like that, and trying to get times down, and it's never like that. And like I said, that's just the way life is as well. There's no sort of straight line between A and B. It's place. And that's what I love about triathlon, or sport in general as well. It's a battle within yourself, but it also can reflect real life as well, business, personal, all that sort of stuff as well. So that's why I think, like I said about your book, it's great for people that love sport and things like that, but also I think anyone could read it and get something from it.
Yeah, and I think that was the goal in writing it. It was really about the life story. And the race gave it the drama and the tension that kind of made it sort of the page turner and that other way. But I think there was the worry that when it came out, it would be seen as a sports book, but it's not that at all, and it hasn't been seen as that. So I've been really, really thankful and grateful that people have seen it for what it is. And in that way, it can be helpful to more people than just the people that want to go and get into coast to coast or whatever, because it's really not about coast to coast, and I'm certainly not suggesting in the book that people go and take up coast to coast, but I actually got asked by a few interviewers after it came out in February, and they said, didn't you put a lot of pressure on yourself to go and train for that? Like, was that a good idea considering your fragile mental health? And I didn't. I can see where they're coming from, but the way that I trained and the way that I went about it was to learn the new way. So it wasn't about, by the time I got to the race, I was ready for the race. It's like all that like baby steps thing. So it's about learning about the process rather than the outcome. So in the past, I've been so outcome focused on my 1 hour and a half. I want to beat an hour and a half for a half marathon to be considered, in my mind, more than handy runner, which, yeah, okay. But it's a pretty arbitrary mark, really. I mean, it's a mark I always wanted to beat, and I didn't quite get there. And I beat myself up a lot. And I beat myself up in the training. If I didn't feel good, like most days I'd run and I wouldn't feel that great, and I'd feel pain, and I wouldn't want to be feeling like that, and I'd thrash myself, and I'd be trying to run paces. I went running yesterday, hiking with a good friend of mine, a coach of mine, who's mentioned in the book, Rosie, great kayaker, and she does a lot of multi-sport, God's own stuff now. She's coming back from an injury, so we went for a hike up to the top of the Port Hills, and kind of ran down, and no watches, no pace, because now I'm more focused on how my body feels. Like, it's not about punishing myself or trying to, oh God, I look at my watch, I need to be running faster than this.
Yeah.
It's about a lifestyle, and about making sure it's about doing it for the right reasons for me. It's not about winning races, because that would probably be quite detrimental to my mental health if I was out there trying to win races and compete with the amazing athletes I train with. Like, some of these people are just incredible, and I'm not being defeatist here, but I've got my strengths and my skills, but it ain't speed, especially running. My running speed I don't know what you found when you started doing Ironman, but as a young man, I could run a lot faster than I can now. Now it would probably snap me in half if I tried to run the speeds that I used to be able to run.
Yeah, I mean, when I started training, I was 120 kgs, so there was only one way it could go. That was a bit quicker. So
you got quicker.
Yeah. There was, well, it's probably because I could run further. Because when I first started, it was barely running between power poles, and I'd be having to have a wee break. But yeah, no, it is. It's one of those things. You talk about processes, and
process. That's huge.
And that's that is massive. That is big. And I think goal setting as well for me is one too, because it was I had that big, hairy, audacious goal of Ironman. But to be honest, we weren't going to go from A to B straight away, from zero to hero. There was all those little bits, and that was where that process came in. Of being able to do it. And then that first year that the weather bomb hit, that sort of the year after I had my heart attack. So it was like, the hell, to be honest, if it was a few years earlier when I was going through my depression and things like that, I probably gone worlds against me. Why? I'll just give up. But then it was just like, well, no, I've got this goal. Let's just keep going and just keep heading towards it. And I guess I talk about that a lot as well. So if you have a goal, if you don't achieve it the first time, you can sit back and reassess and go, okay, cool. Use it as a learning experience. It's not a failure. It's a learning experience.
The finish line's still there, right? So
100%.
What have you lost? You've done something. You've gotten off the couch and you've gotten stuck into it, right? And I think I've learned that, the fact that I don't have to be perfect at it. It doesn't have to work out the first time. I mean, you did right. It's just that perseverance. And in that way, it's sustainable. Like if you just have that rigid goal, all these rigid goals that if you don't reach it, you failed, then you're not going to continue. So, the whole point is continuing and having another go. I mean, after the first year, I decided it was important to me to reach the finish line. But it was also still about the way you go about it. So, to make sure it was sustainable and it wasn't, I even had an more relaxed year the second year. I gave I was more with the family. I trained smarter rather than harder. I started training in spring rather than in bloody March. So it takes a long time to be training hard out for your goal. The first year I had to because I needed to get fit enough to do it. Yeah. The second year, did a lot more kayaking and improved that a lot. It was just, it makes you feel quite good about yourself that you can put the work in and you slowly improve, right? And and I think that process stuff that we talked about before, it keeps you in the moment. Like if you're in the process of something, you're in the moment, and that's the antidote. That's one of the major antidotes to me for depression, is being in the present moment. like they always say that anxiety lives in the future and what hasn't happened, what could happen, the catastrophe that's down the road, the uncertainty of what the future holds. And there's a lot of that at the moment. I really feel I've struggled in lockdown, and since this has been a hard time for so many people, because we're looking at the news and there's not a lot of good stuff happening on the news right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of bad things happening in people's lives. So, and then the past is where my depression sits. It sits the regrets and the things that I've done, that the self-esteem stuff. So pulling everything together to the process, to the middle, to the present is what's been huge for me. And I guess Coast to Coast is just one vehicle for that. It's a good one because I'm out training most days, so that's usually the time of the day when I'm not too worried about COVID or what's coming up in the next 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I like that with the anxiety and the depression side of things. It's live for here and now. I mean, the past is the past, the future is the future. You've got to be present at the end of the day, and that's the thing. And I think about, I've got a 2.5-year-old and my wife and things like that. I want to be 100% for them as much as I can. And that's where I guess the tools for me are physical activity, getting out and doing stuff, and knowing that I don't stringently, I try and train as much as I can. But just even if it's a half-hour run or a half-hour bike, I just know full well that that's going to help me. I don't have any KPIs that I want to try and hit, or watts or anything like that, or speeds. It's just like, right, let's get out, get some fresh air, have some thinking time, and just get stuff done.
Good stuff. So are you training for races, or you just got?
I have. So there was one that I was meant to do. There was a half marathon in Huntley that I was meant to do during lockdown. So I just trained for that, and I went and ran it by myself, by just around the river. But then they've changed that to November. So that's my next goal was getting into that, and possibly I've done 9 half Ironmen, so I want to do 10. I don't know if I'll take on another full one. It was a lot. It was maybe when I turn 50, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Like, yeah, I really admire that race. Like, yeah, I've seen a lot of athletes that do coast as well going to Ironman, and it's
And like you said, it's amazing. You stand there and you look around at the start line and things like that, and it's like there's so many different people there, all shapes and sizes and everything, and they've all got their own story, and that's the beauty of it. And it's just, you're all there, you're all just looking around, probably packing yourselves and everything like that. But it's just like everyone's got their own little story for why they're at that start line, and that's what I find so cool about it, to be able to race on the same course as the pros and things like that. And then when the pros finish, they come back to the finish line and stuff like that. And Cameron Brown always talks about, he's got so much respect for the guys and girls that are taking that 17 hours to finish, because they just put in so much time and effort into it, whereas their day's done in 8.5 hours. So it's a special sport. I think the triathlon community, the likes of your coast to coast and all that sort of stuff, it is a special thing where you find a lot of people have got, like I say, their own stories.
And I've talked to most of the people I've met, which is a lot of people through coast. It's a massive community, like you say. It's community and connections is another massive upshot of getting involved in the sport. Most of my life I do individual stuff, or I did play a lot of rugby, but I always felt very alone and worried that I was letting the team down and all that sort of self-esteem stuff that's all behind me now. But and like getting involved in the sport, another kind of individual pursuit, coast to coast and Ironman, unless you're in a team, but you meet so many people training, so it becomes this connection, this sort of spider web of connections throughout the coaches, the shops you go and buy stuff off. All these people are just part of that community, the other athletes, and I've got a lot of great friends that I can just go off and do these things with. But none of them have a trifling reason to do the race. Like they're all driven by something quite deep, really. And it's not a casual, I guess it's not a casual thing. Like you might have more casual reasons to get involved in sport, and that's cool. But with Coast to Coast and I guess Ironman, I mean, that's a hell of a commitment time-wise to do it. So you don't just do it on a whim, which is what I found. You know, you got people drawn to it that have got some incredible stories of adversity, inspiration to do it, and or family that have come through in the past and won it, and they've gone in to do it as well. And like it's pretty magnificent. And it's opened up, you know, it's really opened things up for me, opened my life up to being more connected with other people, and having these real relationships based on this common interest.
Yeah,
it's quite cool.
I always say that triathlon or Ironman saved my life. No, I truly believe that it is something that, like I say, it is a individual sport, but it's not sort of thing, and it's just the friendships and the connections that I've made from it. It's just been unbelievable. It's been a vehicle for me to be able to talk about my journey, and be able to get it out there and so normalize it and try and help others. Like I said, us blokes are the worst for bottling things up, and it was like you said, my brother was the one that came in and asked me, you know. It was 90% of where I am today is help from others. That it was that little step that I had to take for myself, that realization that, oh shit, I actually do need more help than the drugs I was on, to the antidepressants I was on to get through. And that's when I started that counselling side of things. You talk about your counselling and things like that in the book as well. And I found, I mean, the first counselling session I went to, I was pretty scared, to be honest, because I was sort of I was going to be vulnerable, I guess, for the one of the first times. And within 20 minutes, I had the counsellor in tears. And I'm like, okay, so my story, that I do have, not issues, but I do have something to tell. There is something, so it's sort of that validation. I am going through a tough time, and now let's put those processes in place to help you through. And that's where I started that goal setting again, things like that, which I'd left that behind, I guess. And I think when you talk about your counselling sessions and things like that in the book, it was like, yeah, it is pretty special to be able to, I guess, look inside and go, actually, I need that help, and be able to talk about how.
And I think I mentioned in the book that whenever I went and saw my counsellor, Anne Marie, you know, I'd often not be feeling particularly good, but I never went in. I always left feeling, you know, absolutely incredible and lifted up. She didn't give me a free run. You know, there was a lot of challenging my ideas and thoughts I was having. A lot of them weren't really true, because a lot of them were very negative. You get into this depressive phase, and everything's cloaked in this veil of negativity, and you're the worst person. I mean, for me, you know, I feel unfit and disgusting and just all these negative things that I know aren't true rationally, but you feel it so deeply that and then everything, all your interactions become negative, and you go out into the world and you're driving around and things bother you that didn't usually bother you. So when I'm down, I have to really kind of concentrate and not react on the road. You know, when I'm driving around, you know, in the past, when I was really struggling, and I'd get this sort of anger and frustration coming out all the time, which is a big thing for men, isn't it? The anger side of things.
100%. I know if I'm starting to take a bit of a slide, the first thing that I start to do is start probably fighting back, or be fairly calm, I'd like to think. But if I find things that start making me a little bit scratchy, or things, I've got to remove myself from the situation, count to 3, let's go do something, go for a run or something, because I know full well that, oh shit, that's my turning point. I know if I'm starting to get a little bit scratchy or a little bit tetchy about something, that's like, okay, right, let's get out of here and do something.
You construct these things in your head, these scenarios in your head that aren't right, and but yeah, the counselling just helps you break that down, lifts you up. It gives you that boost and that sort of perspective that you get stuck in this negative cycle that you can't get out of, and then sometimes it takes another person just to break that up. And so, I mean, at the moment, I've gone back to more regular counselling because things have been a bit rockier, and that's okay too. It's just another tool, so it's not the only thing.
exactly.
You know, there's all sorts. There's the exercise, there's sleeping well, there's eating well. You know, often when you're not feeling that great, you know you're not doing the things that could really help you, but you don't do it anyway. Like it's one of those things that you do have more control than you probably think sometimes. When you're feeling low, you think you've got no control over it, and it's just you're stuck. But what I hope the book sort of tells people is that the enormous power they have over their own lives and their direction and the effect they can have on other people. So you can have that positive effect on other people. You can help others. You can have that outward look rather than the inward look. The inward can be quite good to do sometimes. You know, I often have to look into to what's the word? Analyze what's going on for me and what's going on in the world, and then reflect on things. But then if it becomes too much that way and gets too balanced inward, it can become quite negative. So yeah, at the moment I'm thinking about the next book, and so I'm doing a lot of the inward. And it's like, so when I start writing the next book, it'll be more outward, hopefully.
Cool.
And I can be positive.
Yeah, yeah. Have you got any ideas about what the book's going to be about then?
Well, I'm hoping to write about year 2 of the Coast to Coast.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And in the Coast to Coast run here, but that's all I've got. I think there's the next phase. What do you do? For me, the key theme of the book is what happens after you recover from your depression. I think there's that tendency, and I fall into this all the time, that I want life to be perfect and I want to be happy and great and awesome all the time, even though I know rationally that's not possible, that you have these ups and downs. It's about acceptance, and acceptance doesn't mean you're surrendering defeat to depression and saying I'm defeated by this and I'm never going to beat depression. You can't beat it. It's this thing that you manage and you live with. You manage it well, you manage it badly, but you manage it. So this next phase for me has been really about trying to accept that it's a lifelong journey, which at times I feel like, God, why can't it just be fixed? I always want to fix. I think we want to fix everything.
That's us. Yeah, that's us. We are fix-its. That's the way we do it. And I guess it's even... and I guess that even comes out in the way that we interact and talk with other blokes. It's like, oh, I'm feeling down. Okay, go and do this, go and do that sort of thing. It's rather than, oh, geez, actually, okay, what can we do together, or what? I think that's sort of the whole mindset around that sort of stuff has to change. But yeah, I guess I went through that realization. I thought, I'll finish Ironman and my depression will be gone and all that. So, it is a lifelong thing. I will have the black dog in my life forever. At the moment, he's in his kennel. But I know that there will be times when he rears his ugly head, and I have those tools. I've got my loving family around me and things like that I know full well that I can turn to. Because the way this weather's going at the moment, I know probably middle of July, that's going to be a trigger for me, is the bad weather, cold weather. I'd much rather be summer, but it's just knowing, okay, here's my tools. This is what I have to do to get through. And I think it is something, and to be honest, I guess I've come to respect my depression as well. It's something that, it is part of me. I don't there is one thing I regret, and that was the day when I was going to take my life. It was my mum's 60th birthday. That's my biggest regret. Everything else is like, well, it's changed me into the person I am today. And if I can help people learn from the journey that I've been on, then I'm doing good. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to spread the word that, hey, for me, physical activity works, but it could be something else for other people. But it's just knowing that there are a lot of people going through depression. Yep, we go through it differently, but hey, it is something that a lot of people suffer with, but also it is something that we can get under control.
Absolutely. And I admire that. I think that, that looking to help others is really awesome. Like, because you can't imagine how many people you're helping by just the last, several or more years that you've spent discussing this stuff. Every person that can touch this into the story, can come away with a small mindset shift, or just a small little kernel of, a realization that that's the way forward for me. or some information to help someone else that they come across.
Exactly.
So well.
Exactly.
Um,
Like I say, that's what I love about your book. It's more than just it's not a sports book. It's just because you were doing that. It could have been something else you're doing, but the whole bit around the mental health, the processes, getting to the other side, and things like that is what it was all about, and it encapsulates it so well. And it will. I hand on heart believe it's going to help a lot of people reading that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, it's now, what's next for you? What's next for Matt Calman there? Yep, you've got another book. Have you got third time up for Coast to Coast, or?
Yeah, one day. Because it's so popular now. So the first year I did it, I think you could have still entered it the month before and got into the field somehow. The second year, it sold out in 2.5 months.
Oh, jeez.
And then this year, after this year's Coast, 8 days. It sold out in 8 days.
Really? 8 days? Wow.
The waiting list and everything sold out. It was just unbelievable.
Wow.
Although
I was watching the other.
So I'm sure there'll be a few internationals that can't come.
Yeah, I watched the other night the Bondi Rescue guys taking on Richie. That was.
Yeah.
That sort of got the juices flowing. I was like, oh. Could I?
Oh, you absolutely could do it.
I don't think the Waikato River will be enough for me to get my grade 2 kayak.
Yeah, you could. I hear that I hear it's got some quite decent boils on it. The Waikato, it's not a completely easy bit of river in parts. Yeah,
maybe coming down the Hooker Falls or something like that.
Please don't do that. No. Anyone can do the race. It's brilliant. But I'm going to do Motu Challenge up in Aportiki.
Cool.
Which is the North Island's kind of biggest multi-sport. So there's an element of mountain biking, which I've got into now.
Cool.
For something new.
Yeah.
And got a few book things happening. Word Festival in Christchurch I'll be part of, and the Hawke's Bay Readers and Writers Festival as well. So that's all coming up in a few months. So another chance to kind of go up and talk about the book and about mental health. So
So exciting times ahead. I think it's, like I say, the book is going to be is going to help. It's going to help a lot of people. And I mean, I'm not a huge reader, and it took me about 4 or 5 days to get through it. So it's like, this is pretty special. This is pretty special. So, where can we get your book from?
It's sold throughout New Zealand and all reputable bookstores. So you can also order it online. So you just Google the book, The Longest Day. You can Google mattcalman.com and click on one of the links. There's quite a few online links. You can get it through Kindle.
Oh, cool.
As well.
Oh, brilliant.
But it's in all good Wickles, Pay Plus, all those sorts of places. And Scorpio Books here in Christchurch. And,
cool. I'm sure there'll be a lot of the Mates Matter group will be getting out to get it for sure, I think. So, but before we finish off, is there anything you'd like to say, to add, anything like that, to maybe someone that is struggling or know of someone that is struggling and things like that, something that may have helped you?
Yeah, I just think if you are struggling, I think you do realise in yourself when things aren't right. So just recognise that it's better to kind of do something about it in terms of reaching out to a counsellor or to a trusted friend or to anyone really. If you're really worried about it, and you'll know. I mean, I knew. I left it till I was sort of, I think we can both appreciate this, till I was, just about to fall off the cliff. So my hope is that we get a bit more in tune with our well-being, and when we know things aren't tracking right, and it built up for me over months or years even, but months was really, it was getting serious. And there was plenty of warning signs that even my wife, who knows me the best, didn't see. But I sure as hell felt them, and I knew I wasn't in a good place. I only know through lived experience to do something about it now. But I would just say to people just to recognise that in themselves, and that you are worth putting the effort into to getting yourself onto firmer ground. Yeah, so good luck with it, and people are there for you. So
100%. So thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute privilege to be able to sit down and chat with you. And like I say, it's the book helped me, and it will be something that I'll go back to often as well, to flick through, and if I'm ever feeling in need of a helping hand and something like that, I can go back to it and go, hey, this is what you got up to and things like that, just to know that, hey, there are others out there that have been through, are going through something very similar. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for being vulnerable and doing it, because I know it wouldn't have been the easiest thing to do. So yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
No worries.